I'm so excited that I decided not to look nice for you guys today because I want to like have a real talk about ADHD today, and this is me today as a business owner. And there's no makeup. I did shower though, but I'm wearing like pants with paint stains on it, and no frills, no fuss, just me today. Um, So if you're new to my channel, I like doing these lives because it really is a way that for me to kind of work through some of my stuff. Um, Sometimes I go back and remake a video and try to make it a little bit more polished, but honestly, this is so helpful for me. So if you're new to my channel, like a lot of my channel talks about bariatric surgery and weight loss and stuff like that. And what I've come to realize, I had vertical sleeve gastrectomy about 11 years ago. And what I've learned in those last 11 years, a big reason I deal with eating disorders just in general has had to do with an undiagnosed um, ADHD issue that I didn't realize I had, and didn't realize that I had been misdiagnosed with anxiety and depression. And honestly, just I dealt with a lot of like feeling like a failure all the time. And like a lot of that's like I felt like my weight was an outward visualization of like the inward turmoil that I was dealing with. Um, and so I feel like the whole ADHD um, and and weight loss stuff goes hand in hand for me. So I wanted to pop on here and just talk a little bit about what it's like to be a grown adult dealing with ADHD, medicated and treated, but just like what real life looks like for somebody. Um, in particular, a woman, because that's all I can speak for because I have not ever been a man. Um, Although today I'm having very man vibes. That's kind of, I'm liking it. But no, I'm a married woman. I'm in my 40s. I've been married for 17 years to my fabulous business partner and husband. And we own a business as photographers in the event industry, mostly weddings, but we do a lot of like headshots, portraits, and stuff. We do actually have a studio space, and we have employees. And I'm also a mom of two middle school boys who are amazing, but also struggle with ADHD. That's actually how I started to realize, like, oh, I saw a lot of myself in them, and a lot of their struggles. And so I finally got assessed and, like, not only found out I had ADHD, but, like, I was on the severe side of ADHD. Um, and what kind of prompted this live in this video was like currently right now I have about 27 tabs open on my computer, and they're all emails that I have to respond to. And for 2 days I've been going through, and I've been taking my medication, which I've been on for 2 months, and the medication really helps me focus, and it helps take out a lot of the noise in my head. But I'm noticing this week that I'm struggling a lot to finish tasks. And these tasks aren't even like hard. This isn't even like there's like really no stress involved with a lot of these tasks. It's just a matter of sitting down and doing them. And I'm focusing, but I find even with medication, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to focus on the right thing. So I'm tending to focus on the wrong thing. And in particular, I like to do paint by numbers. But I have like 26, 27 emails that I have to respond to. And honestly, like if I were to just set a timer, I could probably get them all done in like an hour. It's not that stressful. So I'm sitting here going, why am I avoiding this? Like what is it about me putting this off that I'm looking for? And I definitely feel like there's a dopamine release like every time I get something done. But then my inbox, like I'm looking at it right now, is already up to 11, and I'd already opened up all of them. And so it's like this constant struggle of just never feeling like I can get everything done. And then that plays into some like pretty serious mental health things of like feeling like a loser, or feeling like I can't do anything right, and like I'm a bad business owner, and all this good stuff. So I'm just super struggling. And so yesterday, something I was doing, I'll show you. So I currently I'm working on this paint by numbers here, my little chicken, which seems like a very silly thing, but I'm finding, I think with my ADHD, like, because I am an artist, but I like structure because I feel safe. Um, paint by numbers is like, gives me that like high for artistic desire, but like within a constraint that I can actually get it done. And there's boundaries, so I don't feel out of control, and I feel like I know what's happening. So these paint by numbers, for whatever reason, kind of help release the dopamine for me. Here, I'll show you one other or a few other ones. I have to frame these. They're really pretty, and I like you can get them on Amazon. But this has been a little like strategy I've used. This is the last one I just did, which is an elephant. See, I am super ADD on this live right here, and I'm kind of here for it because this is my little therapy. There's my cute little giraffe. How cute is she, right? And then this one is my goat. And then I have other ones. I have an owl and a cow on the wall, and I call this my COVID collection because I started the paint by numbers during the lockdown. Like I needed something to keep me sane, and it kind of almost works like where a lot of people do puzzles. For me, paint by numbers kind of helps with that and gives me my little dopamine release that I need in order to keep moving forward. So going back to like all these emails, I've got like 26, 27 emails open right now. It really would only take me about an hour, maybe 2 hours to get everything done. And I'm putting it off, and I have my little rooster here, and he's sitting here, and I've got like all my little paints and stuff. And so what I started to do was like, okay, Christina, every time you answer an email, you can find a number and put in your color, right? Which actually worked. So it was like I almost had to treat myself like a child. Like if you had a kid that needs to do chores, you would tell them, okay, if you do this, then you get this reward. And I have to almost treat myself like I'm a kid sometimes. And I'm a business owner. We shoot 50 to 60 weddings a year. Like if you see me like at a wedding, I'm very dynamic. I have all my stuff together. I stay on task. I have no issue because it's like it's in a field of chaos. And something that I'm learning about ADHD, like people who have that are actually successful but also have a diagnosis of ADHD, is they tend to pick careers that are chaotic. So before I was a wedding photographer, I was a speech language pathologist. I worked in a home setting, and I found that like I couldn't work in the school settings because it was too monotonous. There wasn't enough chaos around me, but I worked great in hospitals. Or I worked really good in skilled nursing facilities where I had lots of patients. There was a lot going on, and I was able to like solve problems quickly. And I'm finding that as a wedding photographer, like when I'm on a booking meeting, when I'm doing a sales session, when I'm shooting and photographing, and there's like craziness going on, I'm peaked. Like the ADHD works in my favor. Because I can attend and put out fires really quickly. But like sitting here in front of a computer and having to do monotonous tasks, it's like I have to treat myself like I'm a small child. And I'm struggling, like really struggling. And then like I said, I'm feeding into this part of my brain of like, I'm lazy, I'm a terrible business owner. Thank you, Caleb. I'm like, just, I'll beat myself up. And I know that that's not really true, although it kind of is, because like all these things should be getting done, right? And something else I noticed that I do, and actually why I finally got my diagnosis and why I finally sought treatment, was I was almost intentionally sabotaging myself with clients. Like I would let problems go, like things that I could solve, until it reached a point of like severity. And then it was like, oh, it's like I almost like created fires so that I don't know if it's so I would get a dopamine rush to fix it, or it needed to be so pressing that I would actually sit there and do the monotonous task. So I would love to hear if this is something that you struggle with, as even if you're not a business owner, but just like in life or in work in general, um, like I find myself even just in my daily chores, I like to do the big things, but I will create chaos around so that I have something to then clean up and pick up. It's been fascinating as I've been more and more aware of how ADHD impacts just a day to day life. Like that's a really, really big one. Um, but again, I like my boys struggle with it. And like I tell them that it really is a superpower. And the way I like to think of ADHD is like when I guess Superman first got his powers, or I guess he was born with his powers, but like, okay, when Spider Man first got bit by, you can tell I have boys, when Spider Man first got bit by the spider and he got his super strengths and he could hear everything and he could crawl on the walls and do all that kind of stuff. At first, it was super overwhelming for him because he could hear all the voices. And once he learned how to hone in his skill and his superpower, he could use it when he wanted to, when he saw fit. And I feel like that's what ADHD is. And like when I can hone in my superpower of ADHD, I work really, really, really well as a creative and as an owner, and I can manage and put out all the fires. But it's almost like because I'm buzzing so hard on that wavelength, sitting down and doing monotonous tasks. I remember when I worked in the hospitals, the skilled nursing facilities, I had to do charting, right? So I would see the patients, fix the problems. I dealt a lot with teaching people how to swallow, aspiration, cognitive issues, like kind of important issues that we would have to deal with that could be kind of stressful. Seeing the clients, recommendation, all of that stuff did great. But when it came down to sit down and actually chart, I just couldn't get it done. When I worked home health, sometimes I'd be 2 or 3 days late on charting, and that's not good for patient care. Like that was super irresponsible. Um, so some of the techniques we've hired help. Like I fired myself from a lot of tasks, and so we have fantastic staff to help with some of the monotony, the things that I just can't get done. But some of these things, like the owner has to take care of. And I may need to fire myself again because 27 open emails that are not getting responded to, like that has to get responded to. So I'm going to have to figure something else out. But it causes so much anxiety in myself that I absolutely hate it. I will avoid it at all techniques, so at all costs. But I will say the reward system of like every time I get something done, I can fill in. It sounds so stupid. I'm 42 years old. Like, why do I need to do that? But it's working. So every time I answer an email, I can fill in a number. Um, and I'll do anything to avoid that task too. Like I said, to a point, like whether it's TikTok or whether it's something all of a sudden I'm on there, or I'll go cook for the boys, or I'll go do a chore, anything physical because it's I don't know what it is. I need to like keep playing with that, but that's something I know it's just because it's boring and I don't want to sit there and do it. Same thing with I'm looking at it here with my passport. I have to get my passport done. It was like pulling teeth to actually get my stupid picture taken, but got my picture taken. Then it sat in my purse for 2 weeks. And my husband's like, we need to get the passport done. We need to get the passport done. And I had to sit there and pull it together. And I think it's just the like having to attend and read and sequence. I mean, I have a master's degree. It's not like I can't do that kind of stuff. I mean, I've had the intelligence of like following a one-step directive. Like I'm not, but it's like pulling teeth. It's almost like torture, and it messes with my head, and then I feel depressed or I feel anxious, and I'm like I don't struggle with anxiety really. I just struggle with anxiety because it's like self-induced anxiety, so that I'll be so anxious, then I'll finally get the task, so that when the task is done, that the dopamine release is high, so I feel like I've been rewarded. And then that will feed into like, then I'll go eat something. And even with my medication, boy, my hair is doing some funky stuff. Even with my medication, I've had 6 cups of coffee to try to get this done. Because for me, with ADHD, the caffeine is a dopamine release, And it helps connect those portions of the brain that aren't firing, like in somebody who doesn't have ADHD. And I need it in order to just attend. So my goal today, and I'll put it in the comments when I get it done, is 4:15 almost in California time right now. So my goal today is to get all these stinking emails done. But see here, that's another thing. They're never done because then another email comes in. So I got to figure something out there. There was something else I wanted to talk about with this as being a business owner. And I'm trying to remember what it is, but I'm curious to hear, like, what are some positives that you notice if you're a business owner, or just even within your job? You don't have to necessarily be a business owner. Oh, I know what it was, but I'm curious to hear like how you're dealing with that, or if this is something that you struggle with. Um, I remembered another thing. So when I kind of came out as having ADHD as an adult woman, on like Facebook, um, so I have like just under 5,000 friends on Facebook. Most, and the only reason being is because I run another part of a business teaching photographers, because I have too many things I keep putting on my freaking plate, because that's what I do with ADHD. So I have more fires to put out so I can, I don't know, it's a sickness. I joke saying it's a sickness, but it is. But even like listen to this conversation. Do you hear me? Like I'm jumping, and I'm fully medicated today, but I am struggling. Um, anyway, when I put it out on Facebook that I had ADHD, or if I put anything like a day in the life of somebody with ADHD as an adult, like this is what it can look like, I have a lot of people that will say, oh my gosh, that is me to a key. Maybe I have ADHD. Sounds like the start of a song, huh? Um, so, like, for instance, I put a story on Facebook talking about this is what's like being somebody with ADHD. Came down the stairs, hadn't taken my ADHD medication. It was like, oh, I should make an egg. Started an egg, um, cooked the egg, ate the egg, and then put water in the pan to heat it back up, so that I could disinfect it because that's what I do. And then looked and was like, oh, I need to take my medication. Took my pill, and then was like, oh shoot, I have a meeting in an hour with a client. I need to go take a shower, and ran upstairs. And like 20 minutes later, my husband's going, why is there a pot on the stove with water, or a pan on the stove with water boiling, or actually it burned off like a fire was about to start. And I come down and really apologetic and felt horrible about it. And he was super nice and sweet, but like I could have started a fire. And he said, "What was your sequencing?" And I was, that exact sequencing. And if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. That's super ADHD. If you don't see it, if it's not in front of your face, it doesn't exist. The object permanence isn't there. And and I put that story on Facebook, and the response I got was like, "Oh my gosh, that's me. That's me on a daily basis." And everybody kind of laughs, and I think we all do things like that, but it's to the point like where it's detrimental. And then like this kind of stuff that I'm talking about, having 20 whatever emails and we can't sit and attend to them and things like that. um, but the reason I say that, I think I have an abnormal amount of friends. Number one, I have a lot of just friends on Facebook, period. But I would say there, I don't know, 90% of them in real life, probably only a couple hundred of them. Um, but because of the nature of our business, I have a lot of photographer friends, and I have a lot of industry business owner friends that are friends with me on Facebook. I truly believe that, and this is why I think that there's an abnormally high people that probably do have ADHD that I'm friends with on Facebook, because I believe, again, people with ADHD strive in chaos, and um, that they like to create problems to solve, because and they like to have a lot of problems to solve. And I believe a lot of people with ADHD go into business for themselves, and I think that's because number one, they struggle with monotony. I think so that they have a hard time working a very standard job. Like I had a hard time with charting and things like that, where they maybe not have enough success. Um, and I also think because I tend to have a lot of friends in the wedding industry that I'm friends with on Facebook, and a lot of them say, oh my gosh, that's like me, that's like me. And I believe people in the wedding industry and the event industry are probably, like, if we were to look across the board of people who have successful jobs and are doing well are probably in the event industry. I really think that they're in the event industry because it is chaotic, and people who work in the wedding and event industries successfully like love chaos, or they burn out, and they love problem solving, and they kind of like a little drama, and they strive on drama. And I think ADHD thrives in that environment, and so those people are very successful. And most of those people, when I talk to, like, if we sit down and have coffee, they struggle with the business portion and like the office management stuff and the tasks, like completing monotonous tasks. They really, really struggle with that. Um, I would I would venture to guess that my friend group in social media and the people I tend to work with on a weekly basis in the industry struggle with something like neurodivergency, because that's where we tend to be successful. So, love to hear your thoughts on this. This was like a very long ramble. Um, and I might just do another video now that I've gotten this out, just culminating all of that, especially if you put some comments and thoughts on that, because I want to normalize this. And I'll probably do a few more lives, but I'm going to start kind of documenting some of the struggles that I'm having with ADHD. And also, I'd like to like start documenting things that things that I'm eating, like triggers, food triggers that like on days that I'm struggling. So, anyway, it was helpful for me. Hopefully, it was helpful for you. Love to hear your thoughts. Have a blessed week. Oh, I always forget how to turn this off. Okay, here it is. Bye.